tegemewa. Sawa sawa. Tusalimiane wale tunaotegemewa kama walipa ushuru. Sindio? Honorable members, you'll allow me to first greet the wanaotegemewa, and I know you are taxpayers as well. Because when you think about the social contract, you will realize that huwa tunachagua serikali ndio itupatie huduma, si ndio? Lakini serikali ndio itupatie huduma, lazima tulipe ushuru, si ndio? Tumekuwa tukilipa ushuru ama hatujakuwa tukilipa ushuru? Tumekuwa tukilipa? Kwa nini haitoshi? Inatosha? Kwa nini imeongezwa? Okay. I was asked by my very good friend Kevin. TISA is an institution that was founded to push for accountability around money. We started with CDF. Over the years, we have grown into other sectors, particularly the budget. Most recently, we stumbled on the issue of debt. And we have been pushing for accountability on that particular front. And so this year, we are happy because increasingly, Wakenya wanaendelea kuwa active citizen, and that is what TISA pushes for. We are also defenders of devolution, and for that, we are twins with the County Governance Watch institution. I do not want to go straight into the finance bill before I go to, I think this one won't display the entire presentation entirely. So if I could, no, there are bits that I am not able to view. Oh, sorry, nimefika. Mnajua technology inataxiwa, so it may be why. I want us to know what we are resourcing. Because when you pay taxes, it is to resource budget. And the minute I see two MPs here, sasa muamuke kabisa, tukitoka hapa, we must live with letters to all our MPs. What they need to pass in the budget, what they need to reject. What they need to pass in the finance bill, and what they need to reject. Why? Because they are the people's representative. Hii budget ikipita, it becomes the people's budget, not Kenya Kwanza or the president's budget. So Honorable Pio, Honorable Pasaris, budget ikipita, this time nobody can walk away. We must all represent these people. Now, what are some of the things we are celebrating in this particular budget and finance making process? First, there is a proposal for accrual accounting. Ikikuwa chini ya 100. And then we have said after that, Most of the people here either go to work or they send their children to school and so on. The cost of transport will have to go up because most of the people who own vehicles for public transport, for school transport, must increase that particular cost. Hapo, because that is where I am, I have remembered my mother may call me, nimutumie pesa ya hospitali. The cost of her calling me will go up. Unajua Wakenya, by the way, tutakuwa na stress sana. Because part of how we relieve our stress is just speaking to each other, chatting on WhatsApp group. The cost of sending her money in the bank will also go up. So the net effect on food, transport, communication, manufacturing, and banking will mean most of the companies will barely be able to produce. If you're even taxing food products, farm inputs, and beginning July, there is a levy on agricultural products that is supposed to commence. We will have no productive economy to tax anymore. As TISA, I can say authoritatively, we are finalizing a study that is looking at the effect of the recent tax measures and the IMF conditionalities on our economy. Is it growing? How many jobs have we created or lost? How much tax have we collected in areas that were previously productive? So this is just one of the simulation of what would go up. Something like you've had the manufacturers very, very well illustrate that for a liter of cooking oil that is currently going for 300, the minimum cost before you add the distribution cost will be about 340. So a significant increase. Finally, as an activist, allow me to speak about the proposal that KRA should be allowed a waiver from data protection, intrude into our privacy, into our businesses, so that we increase tax compliance. In this room, there are people who may be younger, but those who know what Ufungamano is, it has been a center for liberation. Most of the people who served at Nyayo torture chambers would come here to reminisce. Honorable Kalonzo, you're here. When they can no longer attack you in any other way, what do they use? They use tax. One of the easiest ways for government to target and silence people is tax compliance. What I have not gone through is some of the proposed taxes and how we will calculate them. It is not so clear, such that you may find yourself not complying, not because you do not want to, but because of how complex it is to comply. If we lift and cede our freedom of privacy and allow this for surveillance to go on, I am sure this will be the easiest way to silence dissent and democracy in this country. And I'm hoping, if no other clause will be debated, is why there must be surveillance on Kenyans for taxation. Tumesema sisi wote tunapenda kulipa ushuru. We don't even want to evade. But ultimately, that restriction or the proposal, it is so broad and covers so many areas that it risks very, very much being abused. As I close, I am not sure if our voices will be heard in the House of Representatives in Parliament. But this is a reality of what will happen to us. Kuna mtu hajafeel effects za Finance Act ya 2023? Wangapi tunasherehekea the effects of VAT on fuel? We have gotten several things right, but the finance bill of 2024 and the budget has some things that are very, very dangerous for this country, especially for most people who are already struggling with basic services. Please, if you go to our website, Okoa Uchumi, by Friday kutakuwa na barua yenye unaweza andikia MP yako. Umwambie zile ushuru tumekubali. Si ni vizuri kwamba hatutalipa ushuru kwa housing levy? Sio ni sawa? Na si pia ni sawa hatulipi ushuru kwa social health insurance fund? Si ndio? So the finance bill, not in its entirety, but there are things that if they affect the productivity of Kenya, we have no country to defend. Please write to your MP. If they do not listen, Kevin, can you bring us back to ufungamano, or we get together and we go to Bomas, sindio? Na tupitishe budget yetu, ambayo iko na health, ambayo iko na education, ambayo iko na pesa ya wazee, sindio? Because ultimately, this country, we are the ones who have sent the representatives. I thank you, and I look forward to this dialogue. I hope I was very objective.
Ameongea vizuri. Amesema zile vitu zinatusumbua. Sindio? So I will not want to dilute what she has said, but invite our next speaker. I know there are questions. We will pick them towards the end, so that we'll have a plenary session. We discuss all the issues that we have. Sawa sawa. So I want to invite Bwana Okango to go through, to take us through the NADCO report and the proposed amendments in that document. Najua he's very good with it, so he'll not take much time ndio tupate nafasi ya kuongea na wakubwa wetu. Si ni kweli? Frederick, karibu.
Good afternoon. Edna, just come a minute. Now, my name is Frederick Okango. I actually am representing Professor Adams Olo, who is away outside the country, but I worked well with him when we were at Bomas. My role here will be very brief. I'll take you through a summary of the report. This report was a negotiated document following what happened in this country, as you're aware, that after the elections of 2022, there was a petition in the Supreme Court. And that petition was canvassed, it was heard and determined by the Supreme Court. But shortly after that, there was a stalemate in this country following that election that in majority of the views of the people, it did not go well. However, a committee was formed. Now, This committee was called National Dialogue Committee, and it was a representation from the two political formations, Kenya Kwanza, whose representatives were invited here, and Azimio. Then there were the issues that were to be addressed. But the committee had a mandate to facilitate dialogue, consensus building, and recommend constitutional, legal, and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people. So those issues of concern to the people that happened at Bomas, where the committee had over 42 meetings, received over 200 memoranda from the public, like you, engaged over 60 stakeholders, and had sittings of over 700 people engaging them. So this process is very important because we normally say public participation is a continuous process. But before I take you in the next 10 minutes what you need to know, public participation is a constitutional principle. Yani katiba imeturuhusu tujadiliane. I've always said, in doing so, there are certain things that must entail public participation. Number one, it must be informing. Number two, it must be involving. Number three, it must be collaborative. And lastly, and we have seen this with the finance bill, it must be empowering the public so that you give the authority of decision making in the hands of the public. We have not seen that before. And I'm happy that His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka is here. He was actually the co-chair at the NADCO. Honorable Pio Andai is here, was also part of the negotiators. So they are conversed with this report. Now, that report was later given to the two principals, as you can see. Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and Honorable William Ruto. Now, what were the issues? Because when Edna was speaking here, she said, when they did their survey, and that's why we were invited here, there are people who don't know what is in the report other than Fungua Sava. Remember Baba used to say, Fungua Sava. So that's the only thing they know. But I want to tell you there were issues that were to be canvassed. Number one was issue of electoral justice and related matters. And under that, there were quite a number. There were restructuring and reconstitution of IEBC. There's a bill, proposed amendment, that is going to reconstitute the commission and restructure the commission. There were the electoral boundaries review and audit. So what you have been talking about is the audit. Then there are outstanding constitutional matters that included issues of Article 43, implementation of two-thirds gender. I know Esther Passari's Honorable is here. You are very particular about two-thirds gender, and the governance issues, and many more. Then there was the fidelity to political parties. Register of political parties is here. The issue of people migrating from one party to another that have been elected. And there was a need to amend our laws to ensure that we have party hygiene. And then there was the establishment of, state offices, leader of official opposition, prime cabinet secretary, and that. Now, when His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka and the team finished their job at the NADCO, at Bomas, from the views they got from the people, the public, you and many, there were proposals to amend certain bills or to introduce certain bills. One of them is the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2023. That bill covers many of the issues that some of them are in the statutory bills that Honorable Pio Andai and team have been looking at in the National Assembly and his colleagues in the Senate. Then there was the IEBC Amendment Bill, which I'm sure Honorable Andai will talk about it, has gone through the process in National Assembly and is at the tail end of processing at the Senate. We are hoping, as the public, that they finish with it as soon as possible so that this country can have IBC Commission in place. Today, as we speak, we don't have IB Commission. We don't have it. Then there was the Election Offences Amendment Bill, Ethics and Corruption Bill, Political Parties Bill. And I'm happy Madam Registrar is here. She will tell us what she thinks. That is going to amend certain sections of the political parties, particularly on issues that were raised as fidelity to political party, and also reforming the institution of registrar or office of the registrar. Then the leader of official opposition. Having said that, the committee made certain recommendations. I'll not go through the entire report because it was at 269 pages, but I'll summarize in this presentation. Just highlights on what you need to know. In restructuring of the IBC, walisema kule Bomas kupitia wananchi kwamba katika wale ambao watashiriki kwa kuwachagua au kuwateua wale commissioners, selection panel, the recommendation was that it is expanded to 9. And these are the representatives. The political party liaison committee had 3 slots from the minority party, majority party, and the parties that are non-parliamentary parties. Then there was the LSK, representative 1. Then there was the Public Service Commission, 2 representatives. Then there was the ISPAC. Then there was Interreligious Council of Kenya, another 2 representatives. The reason why this happened is because we say it must be inclusive. And the public said we would want to see inclusivity in the selection panel that is going to give Kenyans a commission that is not only believable, but also a commission that is transparent and can undertake the process of electoral systems in this country. As far as that is concerned, then there were issues that are related. Just want to go, boundary delimitation. Again, this is an issue that was canvassed, but as you know, the constitutional timelines for delimitation passed. So if you ask me today, we ought to have done boundary delimitation, but we cannot do it because we don't have a commission in place called IEBC. So that was there. Audit of the 2022 presidential elections. This is what Baba used to say, fungua sava. This constitution that we have, and I'm happy the process started here, mandates the commission to facilitate 3 things. 1, evaluation of the elections, which they rarely do. Then it mandates them also observation, okay, which they normally do. But also it mandates them to do other things. But the most important thing is the evaluation. And that's why this audit was important, as per the provisions of Article 88, sub-Article 4H. So the people at Bomas that Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka and Opiyo Wandayi met suggested to them that after every election, we must have an IBC in place that is able to audit their processes and that is able to give Kenyans what worked, what did not work, and how to rectify what did not work, because that has not happened. Then there were related matters, electoral reforms. You know, like last time, Madam Registrar, when we were about to go to election, there were reforms in the Political Parties Act, you remember, which was very controversial. Madam Esther Passari, you sit in Parliament, and you saw the problems that were there. So the proposal from the public was that, why don't we do these reforms 18 months before the election, so that we have time to canvass these issues? That was another matter that came from that discussion. Okay? Then there was the issue of validity to presidential elections, what we find in Article 140 of the Constitution of Kenya. When we compete in an election, there'll be a winner and a loser. But somebody who has not been declared has a right to petition through Supreme Court. That's what that article provides. But it says within 14 days, the court will hear and determine that matter. The people at Bomas, where His Excellency Kalonzo was co-chairing with Kimani Chungo was supposed to be here, said that increase the timelines from 14 to at least 21. That will inform amendment of the provisions of Article 140 when the people decide to do so. Funding of IBC was an issue. The public said they must have enough money to enable them to do their job. And then there were issues of holding elections different dates. Some people have the view that you stagger them. Some people have the view that you do them after 7 years. But again, that's an issue of referendum. When the people of Kenya decide, you and the many who are not here, that's how you want it, you will do that. Security of officials, you saw last election, there are returning officers who died, one in Embakasi East, others somewhere, some were being beaten. What do we do to protect our electoral system? We first also must secure the lives of our electoral officers, and the people of Kenya were very clear about that. Campaign financing, the proposal was such that once the IBC is in place, within 1 year, they submit to Parliament, where Honorable Wandai and Esther Pasari sit, and Shakila, SG, karibu sana, to look at those campaign financing regulations so that we can also encourage transparency in our campaign system, particularly on the politics side. Now, there are outstanding issues, and people have been asking me, every time I appear for my political side, and they ask me, you told us that you were going to address the issue of cost of living. That was in Article 43, right to food, health, education. And our tax expert who took us through the budget, the finance bill, demonstrated that actually the reason why the people of Kenya must reject that bill if it is not amended is because it affects the core issues that are touching on the rights of Kenyans in Article 43. Food, talking about bread, health, and all those things. So this was an issue that was canvassed at Bomas. However, the panelists there agreed to disagree. And I'm sure His Excellency Kalonzo knows that, for example, the Azimio side gave proposals on how this could be done. The other side said, you know what, they are the government, they can address that. Again, that was an issue that was canvassed. Okay? Then there was an issue on, just want to go very fast in the interest of time, 2/3 gender rule. The President, Honorable Ruto, formed a multi-sectoral working group. While this was being canvassed at Bomas, there was a team that was also looking at how do we ensure that we have got gender equality, particularly on the 2/3 gender. You know, in electoral, there's what we call the general principles of electoral system that demands of us that in any elective public body, there shall not be not more than 2/3 gender, 2/3 of the same gender. That issue, I don't know if you look at the cabinet today, I don't know. It's not elective, but it's appointive. If you look at the parliament, I don't know whether you see 2/3 gender. But the answer, you have it. So that was an issue that was concerned. But the recommendation was such that from the multi-sectoral group be part of the what we call NADCO report. And that report has been submitted to Parliament. On issues of governance and national unity, the people said that in this country, we are not united, right from employment, appointment, and many so. There are people in this country who believe that they are not even in Kenya. Some of them came to Bomas and they said, we want our own counties, we want our own constituencies, but those are issues that were canvassed, and it informed